My name is Molly Neese, like I had said earlier. To give you a little bit of background on where I've been, where I am, what I do for the university. My background, I studied elementary education as well as psychology at Gettysburg College. I actually even won Student Teacher of the Year for that thing. You're like, remember those times? But I decided not to go into the classroom at that time. I went to admissions, so I worked in the college arena at Chatham College, then back to my alma mater, Gettysburg, and now here at Westchester. It's amazing how the path goes because I am now teaching faculty and staff in many areas of communication, leadership, team strengthening, a lot of different areas, because sometimes I think back, I'm like, so you know what? Those students sometimes are easier than sometimes those adults, right? but with that said, this is where I really got passionate in helping others understand their own communication style, bring awareness of where they are, and especially when you work with your student teachers, because they come with their own experiences, ideas. And I remember being young, right out, just starting too. My idea is the best idea. Yes, this is it, you know? So it's how do you have those tough conversations? And what I found is this tool, the self-profile, and we're going to be going through some of this, is that when you see where you are, because what is it that we have control over?
Ourselves.
That's it, right? So we can do the best with ourselves and equip ourselves to adapt our style with those in which we're interacting with, so that we can, at the end of the day, get the best results. Less stress, right? And healthy conflict, because there is such a thing. So that's it. Any comments before we get started on the self-profile? Right, we're going to be going for 45 minutes or so. So, and those that are, hello, welcome. And you're going to have one of these books as well. So we'll be working through this, but there's times that you're going to have to just pause and then come back as well, because we'll be doing some interactive things through this workbook. So, with this self-profile, luckily it's not like the Myers-Briggs. How many of you have ever taken the Myers-Briggs? Yeah, like 100 questions, right? I wouldn't be asking you to do that on a Saturday morning with your precious time. But there are questions. There is a total of 30. So we just shrunk it a little bit. And if I could just bring your attention to page 3. These questions are going to be, because you might be going through these questions and you say, well, that depends. Most of the time, I would answer it this way. Well, that's what I want you to go with most of the time. If you overthink it, think about when you took the SATs. Sorry if I bring you back to that time too. But you know, yeah, go with whatever comes to you the fastest. You'll see that it says tear along the perforation. You can tear or you can just fold. And what's great about this is that it pops open an answer sheet along with it. So you'll see 1 through 24. And when you look at the first question, when in a group, I tend to speak and act as a representative of that group. On a scale from 1 to 5. 1, not at all like me. 5, very much like me. And you see the Likert scale that we'll be using for the top 24 questions. So when we go through this, yes, we're looking at your style. You're going to get a copy of this, and we're going to encourage that you actually do it with your student teacher too. Because why not start off on the right, or not the right foot, but the best foot? How about we say that? So, because I know you haven't met your student teacher, right, Sarah? How about you, Pamela?
I have.
You have your student teacher, okay. How about you, Wanda? Haven't met her yet.
Yes.
And so this is great. What I love about this is it's 50% you're actively with your student teacher and 50% not. So one is more proactive and one is more, okay, we're here, let's teach these tools. These tools are going to be good for yourself, but I encourage when you work with your student teacher to encourage them to see how they can use it in the classroom too. Think about when you started out teaching, and even when you get a new class, how many new students do you get a year? Sorry, I guess I am increasing stress levels. There you go, 24. Yeah, it depends, because German, you might have like 5 classes of X. So every year though, you get a new batch of students. And guess what? Sometimes the teacher before gives you a little heads up about some of the students in the class, right? So it's very easy for us to be quick to judge, right or wrong, based on knowledge that you are gaining from the year before. So they're coming in. So right there, you're given this information, you're thinking, okay, my communication style, where am I? How am I going to adjust to this individual to make sure that it is the best case scenario? So again, judgment can be a good thing. Judgment can also deteriorate relationships. So this is going to really focus on really helping your student teacher, but then your student teachers helping them with working with their students. I remember when I was a student teacher, there were a few students that were very kinesthetic. They didn't want to sit in a chair very long for long periods of time. And that's it. There are lots of different learners, right? So there are certain ones that you have to adapt your style. As a new student teacher, that can be sometimes a struggle for them to say, just do what I ask, please. Well, that doesn't always get it across. But when you even work through the students, high school students, they totally would get this. This would actually improve their relationships with their friends, too. So if they're happy in their friends' relationships, they're going to be happier what? In your classroom. So you can just see the depths of this tool and the power that it has. You are getting an additional one. You can find these online. If you totally get jazzed with this and say, oh my gosh, I really want to use this, you can find these online and use them in your classroom as well. I also work with, there's a charter school that I work with teachers on mentorship programs. They use this with one another. So if you are in German and there are other foreign languages teachers that are working together, you have meetings. This could be a good opportunity too. So you're really gaining a tool that is multifaceted. So these 24 questions, any questions on how to get started? Okay, go for it. And I'll pause this. All right, well we're back and I'm going to actually update the cameras that are here. We completed the first 24 questions. Now what I encourage you to do is go on to page 5 and look at questions 25 through 30. You'll see that you're using A and B now. And you will put them in the boxes, again, to the left of where you put 1 through 24. So A's and B's. After you complete that part, you are going to move over to page 7. This is where you will transfer all the boxes and all the data in the boxes over to the actual answer key. And you'll go 1 to 2, 3 to 4. So you go left to right. You'll have 2 scores at the end. You'll add up column, the first column, the left column, and that's your directive score. And I'll explain all what that means. And the second column is your affiliative score. Once you have those totals, you will move on to page 8. And again, the greatest thing about this being recorded is that you can stop, rewind, listen to it again. What you'll have on page 8 is a range of scores. You will have 1 number for your directive score and 1 number for your affiliative score based on this range. You will then plot them, meaning on this graph. Your directive score you will put on the dot on the broken line, and your affiliative score you will put, on the dotted line, and your directive on the broken line. So directive is vertical, affiliative is horizontal. So what happens when you have 2 dots and you have a grid like this? What shape do you get?
A triangle.
Triangle, all right. So now that we're all caught up, now we're going to come back to the group. Now, what did you find about your triangle?
Small.
Some are small.
Some are not.
Some are not. I love that. Tomato, tomato, left, right. Yeah, and there are actually 4 quadrants in this graph. Whenever you have 2 axes meeting, you have 4 quadrants. So when you come to this self-profile, and again, the self-profile is, I should have mentioned, is through Rockhurst University. What's great about this quadrant is the directive score, which is your vertical, is the one that says the high need to direct is up here, low need to direct is down here. Your affiliative. Affiliative, what that means is you love people. Actually, you can go on page 10 to see the visual. You need less people. Over here, you love being around people. What I didn't mention is I also worked for Wells Fargo in sales, and I would travel around to all the colleges and universities. Well, it was just myself traveling to all these places, and I found out that, you know what, I need more people than that. Because I didn't go back to a team. You know, I need to be around people. You know, there are some people that are, you know what, I'm just fine. You know, I have my task, I get it done, and I love doing it. So in this world, we have all different gifts. Now, so you can have the high need to direct, no, low need to direct, need more people, need less people. SELF. You may be thinking, oh, that's an acronym for something, right? In normal world, right, especially in higher education and also in any kind of education, it's not though. SELF is really focusing on the 4 different communication styles. So it's either S, E, L, or F. So you also said you have different sized triangles. It's meaning behind those. If you look on page 11, you'll see that you have 3 choices. You have the big, more dominant one, it's your first one, the smaller one, which is your second one, and a skinny one. Which ones do you have? I saw a lot of smalls. Small, small, small. Wonder what you have.
I had a bigger one.
Okay, let me see. Yeah, yeah. You're actually in between. You're mid-size. So it's almost like you are in between these two. Either way, this is what that means. When you have a small triangle, that might be your dominant personality and communication style, and I'll tell you what that is. But the greatest thing about that is you have the capacity to jump into the other quadrants. The downfall to that is what?
You're wishy-washy?
Oh my gosh! In the mouths of kids, jinx! Right?
Look, we're not even in the same quadrant.
See, you're already looking together. You know, you're working to be together. And that's the thing. So you could be not necessarily wishy-washy, but you might be adjusting so people don't know exactly where you are at that given moment. Right? So that's the downside. But what's the upside to it? You're flexible.
Yeah, you're flexible, yeah.
You're flexible. Now, the ticket, though, is knowing, for the small quadrants, 2 things. Their willingness to want to adapt. They have the capacity to, but also knowing how and where to adapt. So you have the capacity to do all these skills because you've done them, but knowing how and your willingness to are 2 different things. Because think about what happens when you're in a state of anger or stress. What are you going to go back to? Yeah. You're dominant. If you're out, you're going to be dominant, and this is the way I am. It's human nature. It's what it is. So we need to counterbalance that with, okay, what did we learn? So you can see how this might be helpful for the student teachers too. You know, what are these capacities? Anybody curious about what the quadrants mean? Ready? Now, page 12. Go to page 12. I want you to focus on your strengths. All right? Don't focus on the limitations. You'll see that there are strengths on every single personality communication style. So, for the S's, you're persuasive, risk-taker, competitive, pursues change, confident, socially skilled, inspiring, open, direct, and outgoing. Someone might call them the life of the party, right? Okay, they love the people and they love to direct, right? They're up there. If you're in the E's, practical, orderly, very direct, self-determined, organized, traditional, goal-oriented, dependable, ambitious. So you have a task, you're not saying, oh, wouldn't it be great to just bring so-and-so on? It's like, no, what needs to be done, when does it need to be done, and let's get done. That's it. And again, this is if you're dominant, big triangle, that is how you operate. You know, I'm emphasizing these. You go to the L's, you are saying, why can't everybody get along? Kumbaya, right? Let's not have conflict. Let's just avoid it. We'll go away. It'll go away. Just pray it does. They want to keep everybody happy. You know, so they're team-oriented, caring, enthusiastic, trusting. Trusting is key for those. You know, they trust everybody. You know, they see a poor, you know, whatever situation happening in the streets, they're there to help regardless, not even thinking, oh, they're there. That's who they are. They're a good listener. They're trusting. They like variety. They're a peacemaker. Those are those L's. Now, the F's. The F's, is anyone an F in here? Okay, 2 F's, all right? Exacting, thorough, factual, reserved, meticulous, practical, calm, high standards, risk avoider. You know what I love about those F's? They keep me out of trouble. I always have to have an F on my team because we can do it. That's what Molly thinks, right? Yeah, sky's the limit. They're the ones, well, did you consider this? You know, maybe we need to involve so-and-so in this. They're not the sky is falling, but they're keeping you out of jail kind of people, you know? They're really trying to help see things to ensure that others have considered all possibilities, right? So if you look at some of these strengths, I would love for you to look at what quadrant, because we said 2 are F's, and remember your small triangles. So you might be thinking, well, that's not being real. Well, you're small triangles. That means you have the capacity to adapt. If you were a big triangle, that is your dominant. So how about the both of you? Roberta, Pamela, where'd you fall?
I'm an L.
L, okay.
I'm an S.
S. So we're just a little S. Yeah. Clarifying, I'm a little S versus the teapot. Elementary ed, what can I say? But that's great. So the only one we're missing is what?
An E.
An E.
Yeah.
What are you? Do you remember? I do. Do you remember what you were?
Yep. I don't.
Here. You were an E.
What? Where is that?
Yes. Yes, you were small E. So you dabbled over to the S as well. But I would say, and I'm actually that way too. I'm between S and E. So what does this all mean? We now know, okay, we have a letter, right? What happens if the whole team are all Fs, let's say? What could happen?
They get lost in the detail and don't see the picture.
Yeah, they might.
They stick with what they're already doing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
maybe less likely to speak out in the group and, you know, work together. They're more likely to focus on their own kind of thing.
And focus on the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, focus on the numbers versus that dream big attitude kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, this is why it's working, this is what it is. And they back it up with facts. Yeah, which is great. But you're right, whenever you have, what happens if you have a whole bunch of S's? Everybody's S's, what happens?
Nothing gets done.
Nothing gets done, but they have fun doing nothing. What happens when you have a whole bunch of L's?
And
Touchy
we're worried about
feely.
caring about each other's
Yeah.
feelings. They're not going to address things that need to be addressed, and just worrying about each other's.
Yeah, they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Yeah, it's like, oh, I don't want to ruffle her feathers or his feathers. Exactly. So where am I taking this discussion next? What do you think?
But it's important to have a representative from each group, maybe, in order to have a successful approach to something.
And that is great, Sarah, because the very thing that we sometimes get annoyed with are the things that can help us through even the toughest of times. Crazy how that works sometimes, right? Oh, that anger that sometimes comes, frustrations with another. But when you look at it as a positive reframe that, oh my gosh, if I didn't have that F on my team, I could have really failed. You know, it could have really bummed out. Or if I didn't have that E, everybody would have missed deadlines. If we didn't have the L's, my gosh, the L's just cut it with a knife and say, hey, let's just come back and meet another time. Yes, that's what we should be doing, so that we're all working together collaboratively. Now that we looked at the strengths, whenever we have, if you're an S, who do you think has the biggest rub? What other?
An E, oh, an S, an F.
Absolutely. My boss's boss was an F. Trained lawyer, used less words. He truly, because our relationship wasn't built really strong at the beginning, he's new, and I was very dominant by S. Look at the limitations. He thought I was pushy, intimidating, manipulative, abrasive, dominating, impatient. And you might be thinking, really? Yes, because everybody comes with their own communication style. Because I was introduced to this, first of all, this book has the answers. I started shifting, and being the psych major, I love this stuff, right? I started shifting and practicing what would happen if I chose to react in my relationship the way he would be more accepting. I have a really strong relationship now. And I'm like, wow, I'm really grateful for this tool. So when you're looking at the E's, who might rub the E's?
The L's.
And why?
Because they're rigid and they're indecisive and they're just opposite.
That's an excellent point. And E's just want to get something what? Done. L's want to what? Make sure no one's hurt. So one is more task-oriented and one's more people-oriented. Right or wrong? There is no right or wrong. It is what is. So when we work through this process, both within our teams of teachers, with yourselves and your student teachers, and you and your students, you have a way of learning how to focus on what turns them off and what turns them on. If you look at some of these limitations and look at where you fall, whether it's L, the Fs, what do you find? Anything that could resonate that you could probably see that, oh, you know what, I guess I can see it. Yeah, a couple head nods on it. Yeah. If anything you walk away from this is just having this awareness, wow, that is the power. And I do. This will strengthen so many relationships just by starting with awareness. Ironically, my husband is a skinny triangle, which means, and I didn't go over this, so I'm sorry, if you're a skinny triangle, it means that you share the adjacent whatever. If you have an EF and it's on this line, the horizontal line, you actually are dominant E, but also mainly do F. So you go back and forth. My husband is an E and an F, and I'm a S and an E. So we focus on the common things. My boss and I, he's more an S, a dominant S, so I help him with deadlines. And he's appreciative, thankfully. But again, it's because I use the turn-ons and the turn-offs. So if you look at page 13, this is the golden key to the kingdom. As hard as it may be for an F to give, recognition or show excitement or give attention to those S's, he or she realizes that, you know what, this is what fills them up. My boss is just like, you do your job, you get it done. If you do it greater, that's great. You're not going to get anything from me, right? That's just the way he is, my boss's boss, the F's. But you know what? He started filling me up. Wow. See, that positive reinforcement that you learn, you know the golden key to the positive reinforcement. You're doing the same darn thing. You want to reinforce what you want to see more of. So when you look at some of those turn-offs, or even the turn-offs, the lack of enthusiasm. But if I'm an S, I need to chill out and accept that Fs, they're not going to be saying, oh, it's a great idea. Let go. They're not going to show it, and don't make them do that. That would feel fake and manipulative to them. So the importance is to really accept people for where they are and learn strategies to best communicate to get your goals where you need them to go next. Think about some of those teacher meetings. They can get heated probably a little bit, even in many meetings. This is some of the stuff that will allow you to shift and build. And you have common ground. And when you see where everyone on your team falls, and even your student, and again, be careful not to say, oh, you're an S, oh, you're an S. We're people. But to know where to best communicate, I often say, if you and your student teacher do this, I'd say, you know what, which one would be a turn on for you? Would that be a turn off? Is that real for you? Because some of you may be thinking, if you're all small triangles, it might be like, yeah, that's not really my strength, so that's not a turn off, but that's a turn on. It opens a dialogue, and you have a tool to bring it through. So you're already setting the stage for, oh my gosh, if I have to have a tough conversation, how should I best do it? And that's where your strategies on to how to flex your style. And really page 14, and you'll see that there are exercises the whole way through this. I mean, you can get as in-depth as you want in this tool that you have. Whatever it is, it's going to strengthen. Because when you're having things happening in your outside world, it's kind of hard to keep them outside. Life happens, but this gives them tools to how to work through them. So that they can stay focused on their lesson planning, the students, the parents, that's old hat for all of you, right? How many years have you been teaching?
23.
23? 9?
10.
10?
6.
6? All of you come with different levels of experience and ideas and styles. It's a beautiful thing. So it's helping them understand and how to shorten their learning curve through some of this communication. Because you can imagine having parent-teacher one-on-ones, they're going to get a lot of different personalities, a lot of different communication styles. Isn't it great for them to have the confidence to know how to quickly see where they may fall so that they can engage them in a way that will be heard? Do I use a lot of words or few words? There's no judgment here. Do I use a lot or do I not?
Yes.
I use a lot. Guess what? With the Fs, if I know that if I get a sense of someone who uses very yes, no type of communication, that's just the way they are, I need to shorten how many words I'm using. Because they're not going to listen. They're not going to hear anything. Actually, you can probably take that home to your relationships at home too sometimes. My husband uses less words. but again, what do you hear, right? So this tool really even gives you how to work best with your supervisor. Think about your principals in your schools. Just the administration and teachers, where they may fall. This is working, it tells you if you think that your boss is in this area, your principal's in this area.